In this program, we're going to learn how to use arrays. So I'll call this Arrays Beginning because we have a lot we're going to learn. And I'll call this class First Array, or First Arrays. We have more than one array we're going to check out in this program. We'll take the free public static void main, do a little documentation. Again, it's our first look at arrays in Java, a collection of elements, or kind of a collection of variables. We're going to get some input, so we'll make ourselves a scanner object. I'll call it keyboard, and we'll have to import the scanner. I'll move from the top down a little lower below my documentation. You can leave it where it was. Here are 6 variables for 6 different test scores. We've done stuff like this before. What if we had 100 or 1,000 test scores? That would be a lot of variables to declare and very difficult to access. A better strategy is an array, which is again a collection of elements, a collection of variables or values if you would like. First, we're going to declare a reference to an array, and the brackets are the key. Notice they're the squarish brackets, not parentheses. Our array will be called test scores. Again, it's going to be an integer array. That will declare a reference to it, but the array itself is not declared until we use new. So, test scores equals new int, and then in the brackets we'll put how many elements we want. We want 6 of them, and they'll be numbered from 0 to 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 6 elements. I'll set test score 0 equal to 78. You can go ahead and make up your own test scores for all 6 of those things. Notice how each index or element number or subscript is in the brackets. And I have 6 of them, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and some test scores to go along with them. Another way you can declare a reference to an array is to use the brackets after the array's name. So if we're going to have a string array of names, I can also put those brackets after names. Either way is okay. It doesn't matter. Again, that declares a reference to an array, but the array itself isn't really declared until we use new. Names equals new string, and again, I want 6 elements. That gives us 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6. So I'll use some names. I'll use some reindeer names. We'll make names at index 0, Dasher. Or you can use whatever names you like. Get an array of 6 names, all initialized, as you see that I did with the reindeer. These are parallel arrays. Notice that there are 6 elements in each and they're related to each other. Dasher's test score is in the 0 spot along with Dasher's name. Dancer's test score is in the 1 spot along with Dasher's name. We can display all this information with a for loop. That's another big advantage of arrays. So we'll have int I equals 0, and as long as I is less than the length of, well, these arrays are the same length, it doesn't matter which one we pick, test scores.length. We have direct access to that field for an array. .length, that is something we can do and find out the length of an array, which is 6. But remember, our last element is going to have an index of 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as long as I is less than 6, we can just keep on looping. And we'll print out, well, if we want to print the name, we'll use names, and then our index or subscript will be I. The first time through the loop, that will be at 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. We'll insert a tab, and then we'll display the test score that relates to that. As mentioned, these are parallel arrays. The name at index 4 matches up with the test score at index 4. Probably need to put a little information at the top to indicate that these are reindeer test scores. And now we'll run this, and the for loop can traverse or go through the entire array, and we'll see all the information from index 0 all the way to index 5 for all 6. There they are. That for loop would have the same code if the length of the array was 10,000. So that's a great advantage of arrays, is that we can easily loop through the whole array with a for loop. Now we can also initialize an array when we create it, instead of doing it in 2 steps. So if we have an array of the weights of the reindeer, double weights, and then I put the brackets after, notice the brackets are empty. There's no number inside. Java will count the number of elements inside these braces. Notice there are braces on the right-hand side. And I'll list 6 weights for the 6 reindeer. You can put in any weights you want. And again, they're inside the braces. And again, I want to emphasize there's no number inside the brackets indicating the size of this array. Java counts it for us. So don't try to do the work for Java. Let it do it for you. Now let's look at an enhanced for loop. Another way to traverse through an array. If you don't really need to ever refer to the index number, this can be a way to do it. So we'll start again with for, F-O-R. Then in parentheses, I'll declare this variable double. I'll call it WT because I'm going to take it through an array that is full of doubles, and that's weights. WT is going to equal every element inside weights one at a time. First it'll be 321.3 at the 0 index, then 401.6 at the index of 1, then 355.7 at the index of 2. It's going to equal all those things one at a time. And so I'll print out WT, and you'll see how it changes every time it goes through the loop. Again, this can be a strategy to use if you don't really ever need to know what the index number is. And we just want to display everything. So again, WT is a double that will go through an array that is also a double, weights, and it will equal every element inside that array one at a time. And that's how come you can see that display of all the reindeer weight information. WT equaled every single one of those weights one at a time. We often declare references to arrays and actually create the arrays in one line very often. I'll show you that in another video. Here might be a reason, as I showed earlier, when you might want to use 2 steps to declare an array, and that is when you don't know how big the array needs to be. So here's an array of integers for cookies. We're going to declare this as an array. It's a reference to an array, but we don't know how big it needs to be yet. We're going to find out how many days people are going to eat cookies. So in this next line, we'll use system.out.print to inquire how many days are you planning on eating cookies. We need that information to know how big or what size to make the array. So we'll have a variable, days, and that will equal whatever the user enters in for the number of days planning to eat cookies. Once that happens, we then know the size that we have to have for our array. It's in the variable days. So now we can make the second step of actually creating the array. The giveaway on that is the word new. So cookies is going to equal a new array of integers. So there's the int, and we'll put days inside the brackets because that's how many days we need. That's the size the array needs to be. If it's 4 days of eating cookies, we need an array of size 4. Next, we'll create a loop to get the information. So I'll say we'll use I equaling 0, and as long as I is less than the length of the array, which is cookies.length, we'll be okay. Remember, the length of the array, if it's 10, then the last element is actually at index 9, because 0 to 9 is 10 elements. So we'll have the users enter in how many cookies they ate each day. We can use I as our counter. It will start, of course, at day 0. And we'll have cookies, and then the bracket I, which is the current index we want, equal what the user inputs with keyboard.nextInt. Each time through the loop, we'll have cookies with an index of 0, then cookies with an index of 1, with an index of 2, all the way up to the last day of eating cookies. We'll see if this works. It does. We were able to enter in cookies for the 3 days that we said we were going to eat cookies. Now we can generate some cookie information. We can have a total amount of cookies. That will be an integer. I'll set that equal to 0 at the beginning. And I'll have a double for average cookies. I expect that decimal answers will be possible for that. Well, we can get the total cookies by looping through the array. So I'll get total cookies. I'll set up another for loop. So again, I'll use I as the counter, starting it at 0. And as long as I is less than cookies.length, we will hit everything inside the cookie array. I guess I should say cookies array. So I'll take my total cookies accumulating variable and do plus equals the cookies for this day. Cookies, and in the braces, I, because I will be 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, and it will traverse or go through the array with all the cookie information. Then I can calculate the average cookies by taking the total number of cookies that were eaten. That's sitting inside total cookies. And we can divide that by cookies.length, which is the number of days that the user ate cookies. Of course, that value is also in the variable days. I'm just trying to remind you about the availability of cookies.length, because we're learning about arrays. I'm going to have to cast one of those as a double, because both of those are integers, and I'm expecting decimal answers. And now we'll go ahead and display the cookie statistics. Then when we check it out, we'll see if it really worked. We're going to look at the total cookies and the average cookies. All right, time to eat some cookies. Well, after I put a new line there so that it'll be easier to read. Now, let's eat some cookies. Let's eat cookies for 5 days. And I'll fill up the array with the cookies eaten each day. Day 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you'll see the total cookies is correct. We were able to successfully loop through, and then the total cookies is 32. Dividing that by cookies.length, which is 5, gave us 6.4. If you want to change an element in an array, you can do that by directly accessing it. So we're going to look at, I should have typed names. It's not really name2, it's names2. We're going to change that name, which for me is a reindeer name. So we'll first take a look at what name is at name2. So again, names with the subscript or index 2 inside the brackets. Then I'll change names to. I'll make it equal, well, the most famous reindeer of all, Rudolph. And now we'll check to see what names 2 has for its value. Run the program, just fly through this cookie stuff. And there we are. Name 2 was Prancer. Now name 2 is Rudolph. Sorry I put a brace there on the right side in my string literal. It should have been a bracket to keep it consistent.